Without any further ado, let's get started.
I'm going to kick us off, Bob, because we actually got, I had in our announcement for this, asked people to submit questions ahead of time if they wanted, and we did have some people do that. So I'm going to go ahead and maybe start with that while we let people get their questions into the Q&A. So the first question we got, this is actually a really interesting one, and I'm going to shoot this one to Karen because she already had some thoughts on this question. So we got a great question from Glenn at Thunder Bay Regional Health Sciences Foundation in Canada. Hello, our friends to the north. We are currently well into a capital campaign at our hospital. We're doing exceedingly well. We've raised our target several times over. Congratulations, Glenn. We have a lead campaign. They've been able to reach those goals. There's one issue that they haven't been able to solve, which is that they have a lead campaign cabinet member with a 20+ year track record who has yet to make their campaign gift. From the outset, they've been in discussion with them about taking their gift to another level and making a transformational gift and a family tribute. Fast forward 3+ years, many meetings with lots of different players in the room, and we still can't close the gift. We are at a loss of what to do. They have gone on gift calls. They've talked about making their gift, but it hasn't happened. Any suggestions?
So, my answer is you've got to ask them. The most important thing you can do is pick a wonderful volunteer who is also a stretch donor. It doesn't have to be the same level of gift, but it has to be the same level of sacrifice. And you and that donor make a little visit like this, like we're doing with you today. And you ask, Joe, you've been such an amazing and wonderful donor for so long. You've been such an incredible volunteer in this campaign, and you've not made your gift yet. And I wondered what was going on. Is there something wrong? Just tell us what's going on. Now, before you ask that question, you need to think about what the answer might be. Because when someone is not giving, it's probably because we got one of the rights wrong. Right purpose, you say you've already exceeded your goal. Maybe they don't think you need their money right now. Or maybe one of the projects there's no projects there that have got them quite as excited, right? So right purpose, right amount, you always want to get that. And she knows that they're going to be a lead donor. That might be a problem in their mind. Maybe it's a cash flow issue, right solicitation team, bring the right person on that visit, right timing. Maybe it's a timing issue. So think through all the what ifs. What if they say this? What if they say that? What if they say this? How might you answer? You just want to be prepared.
Great. Thanks, Karen. We have a question in the Q&A. Faith Pridmore asks, now that we have had 2 years without galas, do you think people will prefer fundraising virtually only?
I'll jump in on this, Bob, if you don't mind. I actually have a couple of webinars coming up that I'm doing for clients and for doing some stuff with Nonprofit Association of Oregon and with some other things where we're talking about revenue shift, right? And kind of how we look at our fundraising strategies. And I think, I go back to something Karen just said about in answering her question, which is we have to ask people. Right. I don't think that any organization can just kind of make a huge decision about any fundraising strategy, whether it be, should we stop doing events? Should we stop writing grants? Should we, anything without talking to their donors directly? I think there's a lot of people who are doing a lot of speculation about what they should or shouldn't do with their fundraising programs without actually just sitting down and talking to their donors about what they want. So I think that's a huge first step. Is if any of you who have gone to virtual events over the last year are now wondering, do we keep these events virtual? Do we go back in person? Do we do some hybrid? What's the next step? I think you start by going and talking to your donors about what it is that they want. I also think this is a really great time for us to just question everything we've ever done. I keep using this analogy that, essentially in the last year, we've broken half of the glasses in our cupboard. We might as well go break the rest of the glasses and buy a new set, right? So we might as well just, if everything's already crazy and we're already going through a ton of change, why not use this time to just go see what else is out there, right? Maybe you have some events that you've wanted to phase out for a long time. Maybe the pandemic wasn't such a bad thing, that it's helping you to phase some things out that maybe you didn't have a good return on investment, right? So look at what is it that we were trying to get out of our events in the first place. Are we still getting that return that we hope to get? Are there other strategies we could be getting a better return with? And then go ask your donors how they would respond to that, right? So if you have donors who have traditionally always come to a gala, but you have a terrible return on investment in that gala, and now you're having to do other things, go talk to those donors and say, hey, we actually would love to switch this up and try some other strategies that we think are going to have a higher cost per dollar raise, that are going to actually have more impact on our ability to fulfill our mission. What do you think about that? So that's kind of my 2 cents about that. And that actually leads us into another question that we had submitted ahead of time, kind of along the same lines of virtual events, which was from Kathy Rurick at Easter Seals Miami Valley. And Kathy asked, she's interested in hearing about some of the creative ways that organizations are offering sponsor recognitions for virtual events. So I'm wondering, Bob or Karen, if either of you wanted to kind of talk specifically about sponsor engagement with virtual events.
Sure. I mean, I would say with the clients that I've had, most of the people have just asked them to sponsor, and they've been very open to doing that without any expectation of a lot of marketing or mention. I think people have been very open to that idea, understand the situation, and have been really good about that. That said, I think some organizations have used, virtual, video and use that opportunity to list sponsors on the website. I think the challenge during this pandemic is really all the things that would normally make a event, all as you said, Laurel, like throwing things out is maybe something we should think about, because a lot of things that we get out of these events don't really work as well on a virtual platform. And so, sponsorships maybe don't work as well in terms of, having signage and listings and the like. But I think people have been really open to the idea of just doing sponsorships and, maybe having a mention during a video or a panel on your video. The like, doing some kind of offline recognition for those sponsors as well. But I found you haven't really, I think if you do good stewardship and do good recognition around these sponsors, it's been very effective. And I think we tend to overestimate the need to provide a lot of marketing support to sponsors. I don't know that that's always what they get out of this. I think they often get out of it things more internally, like providing them with pictures and stories and things they can put in their own newsletters and in their own marketing material that let their employees know that they are a good citizen of the world. So I would think in terms of that, like what can we do to help these sponsors, whether they're a company or whether they're a person, just feel really good about having donated and made an impact.
Yeah. And I'll just add one thing, the theme maybe of the day, which is go ask them, right? Don't try to guess what your sponsors want. Go, or even, have a little Zoom focus group with 4 of your sponsors from a particular event and chat with them about not just today, but in the future, what they might want.
Yeah. So I want to encourage people to type questions into the Q&A. This isn't Ask Me Anything. This isn't a webinar where we don't have an agenda. We don't have anything that we have planned. I think we maybe have one more question that was asked in advance, but we really encourage you guys to type in whatever you like. This is literally an Ask Me Anything, and type in whatever questions, whatever burning questions you might have. So I don't know, Laurel, do we have one more question?
We have 2 more actually. So
we'll go to those, but we encourage the 47 of you or 46 of you that are online to what have you been thinking about? It can even be a comment or It could be a question specific to your organization. It could be a question about trends. It could be prognostication. We don't want to be held to our predictions, but we're happy to make them. Whatever you like.
Absolutely. Good. Well, yeah. So as you're all feverishly typing in your questions, here's another one we got pre-submitted. And this comes from Kate at Camp Aranzazu. I'm going to assume that I said that. Let's see. She says, I'd love to hear more about best practices behind expanding an organization's development team. My organization was one of the lucky few last year that approved hiring additional positions. I'm able to hire one more development position, but have found it challenging to determine who will give me the best ROI, an events person or a grant writer. Both of these responsibilities have fallen on me in the past, and I'm eager to offload the one that will help our organization the most. For context, they have 3 to 4 events per year and submit close to 80 grants/reports per year, along with direct mail campaign newsletters. So plenty to do and need to be smarter about it. So what are your thoughts on that? We get this question a lot. I feel like I get a lot of questions about just structure, development, team structure, and how to make those kinds of decisions.
Yeah. So why don't you tell us?
Oh.
What do you say to those clients, my dear?
You know, I think that there's always a temptation when we get to hire a new position, right? Because it is a get most of the time. Like it always is, you know, and we don't get to do it very often. So there is this pressure. So Kate, I totally feel you on kind of this pressure to get it right. I think one of the important things is I think there's always a tendency to kind of think about what fulfilling need today. I encourage you to also think about where you want to be tomorrow. So not just looking at the structure of your team to meet the needs the things that you have to get done, but the things that maybe you have always wanted to do. Again, this is a really weird time, right? This is a time where a lot of us are questioning and rethinking and wondering if we're doing the right things. And if you're hiring a new staff position, that's a great time to actually make some change. So maybe you have wanted to do major gifts more. Maybe you're the one, Kate, who's going to do those major gifts, right? And so you want somebody you want to be able to offload some of the other things that aren't major gift focus, or maybe you just want to do more individual giving in general. So think about the kind of how this position allows you to do some of those things you've always wanted to do more, either by taking things off of your plate or by having them do them themselves. I'd also think about what kinds of things are hireable, if that makes a sense. I think that there are certain positions that are going to be more attractive to a broader number of people. And there are certain things that are going to be more attractive to like contractors. I'm always going to lean toward, you know, kind of if you're going to use a contractor or a vendor, having someone do that for things like grant writing or for event planning, right? So they just like vendor support around events, but I'd always kind of reserve staff time for relationship building, whether that's through grants or special events. So regardless of whether you hire a grant person or an event person, I want that person to be a relationship person. And so I think that's something else to keep in mind. I don't know, Karen or Bob, any other thoughts on that? Something I left out?
Yeah, no, that was a great answer. The only other thing I would add to that is I would look at my data as well. So the person who is doing all the grant writing now, or whatever percentage of time you are doing your grant writing, what's the ROI on that? If you spend 60% of your time doing grant writing, how much does that earn the organization? Because you want to make sure that you're investing in things that are going to pay off. We have 2 themes today. Go ask your donors, check your ROI, and think about what's the best use of that time. And I just want to underscore Laurel's point. No one should be a just. We need relationship builders who can also write. We need relationship builders who can also do lovely events, virtually or in person. That is our business. We are in the business of building relationships for our organization.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
And I'm gonna just quick Bob, this question on it sounds like we're getting an echo. Nothing changed, right?
It was just a slight echo, Laurel. It's gone.
Okay. So, oh, I feel like I can echo in though.
Maybe you're here. I'll take the question and figure out what's going on over there. Am I echoing too? No. Okay. So Sarah Morgan asked, how are development professionals staying in front of donors during this time of distance? So I guess I am echoing a little bit. So I'm going to try to ignore my own echo. I'm getting a lot of feedback from myself. I think that's helped. So I think people are doing a lot of Zoom, just like this. And I think most organizations that's worked pretty well. And I think a lot of organizations have actually found that people that it might have otherwise been really difficult to reach aren't as difficult to reach through Zoom. It's less of an ask. You don't have to spend as much time. You don't have to go to a coffee shop or meet them in their office or whatever. So I think just meeting on Zoom, I think, has worked really well. I think people have been really creative with events. And when I say events, I don't necessarily mean galas, but I mean doing panel discussions on something that's of interest to your donors, doing vision meetings. I think those of you who are followers of the Osborne Group know that we are big believers in vision meetings and talking about your vision with a group of people and getting feedback, asking them questions. I think that's something that lends itself really well online and with Zoom and other similar services. So I think in using the features of Zoom through breakout rooms and chat and just using our online tools as a manner to not just engage with us as development professionals, but really to bring in other parts of the organization and really have them engage with their donors as well. But at the heart of this, you still have to try to get those one-on-one meetings and ask and cultivate and talk and do stewardship and all the things that you normally would do, and just moving those things online. I don't know if either of you, Laurel or Karen, have seen any other particularly creative things out there.
I just wanted to say, I was reading an article about this recently, not to forget the telephone. We've become so, and it's true, because in person is what's so important and you get to see eye contact, but not everybody wants to get dressed for a Zoom meeting. Not everybody, all your volunteers and your donors who are walking around in their slippers, during the day because they can. Oh, you want a Zoom meeting? I got to go put my makeup on and I got to get my clothes on. And so, make sure that when you're offering that a phone call would also work. If you hear any hesitation, this could be a phone call. It doesn't have to be a Zoom meeting. And then remember what Bob just said. You can bring other members with you that you might not, if you were traveling to see them, you might not have been able to bring that client that you're supporting, your CEO, who, a volunteer. So keep that in mind as well, that you can make your visits very powerful.
Yeah, thank you, Karen. What a quaint idea, the phone. Really.
Yeah, I was actually just on a call with a client before I jumped on this one, and we were talking about the fact that just picking up the phone and for a quick call sometimes is kind of a quality of relationship indicator. That you think about how much closer I am to somebody if I feel like I can just pick up the phone randomly and just call them, right, and be like, hey, how are you doing? Crazy news yesterday, right? Well, just kind of if you had that, think about if you had that kind of a relationship with your donors, right? And didn't have to email and say, oh, I'd like to schedule a call with you on December 5th, right? I don't know. I think it's interesting. I think it almost unformalizes our relationships, which maybe isn't a bad thing. So I want to just ask this question that got submitted, and I want to kind of flip this out to everyone who's on the call with us right now, because we got a question from someone who is they're currently on staff, but they're kind of being groomed to become the next ED of their small nonprofit, but they are looking for some resources around just nonprofit, how to look at nonprofit financials, board development, fund development, things that can help prepare them to be an executive director, just great resources out there for nonprofit management, fundraising, board development. I'll obviously throw this to Bob and Karen, but I'd actually love if any of our attendees in the chat, if you just want to throw into the chat some of your favorite resources that you like, maybe other, I know, Nonprofit Association of Oregon, if any of you have nonprofit associations in your state, those can be great places. There's tons of stuff out there that come to mind, but I'd love to hear from our attendees kind of what some of your favorite places are as well.
I would just jump in. One of the things that I found to be the most helpful throughout my career is to find other people who are doing that job and go visit them. That helped me. The very first, I got a grant writing job, straight from being home with my kids and not working ever. And and I found everybody in my county who was doing my job. I got in my car. Now you'd have to do it by Zoom, but we are a very, very generous sector. We share information, we share experiences, and all the way up to, so as an ED, who's running something like what I want to do and who's doing it well? Could I just ask them for a half hour of their time? And the answer will be yes. The answer will absolutely be yes. So that's just one great way of learning fast on the job.
Thanks, Karen.
My thought too, Karen, was just find a cohort. I know in my career, I agree. The best learning I've gotten have been through my mentors and through my peers. And so, find a mentor, and then find a group of peers who you can just go and bounce ideas off of, that you trust, that you feel comfortable talking to, that you feel comfortable being a mess in front of. I think it's always helpful.
Great. So I'm going to let the keep typing in answers in the chat if you have thoughts about resources. So we only have about 7 minutes left, so we're going to try to get to these other questions that we have in the chat. So we have a question on any tips to successfully wean event donors off of galas or in-person events and into individual giving.
Yes. Could I take that one?
Yes, please do. I know this is a
passion of mine.
Yes, fire away.
So if you normally have your event, let's say you normally have it in the fall, you have it in November. This is a great month to go and visit those donors, to get up a little Zoom chat, get a conversation going. I would start one-on-one. Who's my best donor to that event? And who is my biggest volunteer? I don't want to give this up because I love it so much person. And start having that conversation about, first of all, what our goals are so that there's clarity about the goal. And then how might we address and achieve those goals in, perhaps a different way. I've been pushing this formula of proven practice plus innovation minus losers, bad behaviors, bad things equals success going forward. So go and talk to those and do it now. Do it now and find what they are passionate about. Ask them for those big gifts now. If they're a $10,000 sponsor normally in your November event, see if you can't close some of those now. And then it will become clear that you don't need to do the event, or you could do it differently, or you could do it better. But you've got to go and ask questions with goals in mind. So when I come up with a terrible idea, I'm your volunteer, and I come up with a really terrible idea, you can say, oh, okay, so how does that get us to? And you put the goal out, because I'm just help me understand, not snarky, you'd ask it nicely, but that's what I would do.
Great answer. So we're going to keep moving. So I think I'm going to crowdsource this next question, which is, Let's see. Is there a resource that addresses examples of successful event ideas rather than how to? After 25 years of fundraising, could use some new ideas. So if either of you have any new ideas, Karen or Laurel, feel free to shoot them out. But I'm also going to throw that out to the group, and feel free to type into the chat any resources that you know of around new event ideas.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go back to, I'm gonna be a broken record, and I'm gonna say ask your stakeholders, ask your donors, ask the people who are close to you what they want. And I'm also gonna push to say, do we have to do new events? Is there some other way that we take the time that maybe we would have taken implementing an event, and we actually just pick up the phone and talk to some donors, or we bring people together for a vision meeting or for a stewardship event, or something that's not a transactional event? I think that's always going to be the best idea, is just finding ways to engage authentically with donors around our mission. But again, I know some people really want to do events, and so I would just say I'd go back to your donors and say, what do you guys want to do? I mean, because this is for them anyway, so let's let them choose.
The one thing I would just caveat to letting them choose, I know we want to try and get as much in as possible, but this is so important. You're not in the entertainment business.
Right.
It's not the business you're in. And your job is not to entertain me as a volunteer or as a donor. Your job is not to give me, the coolest, most new, exciting thing. Your job is to get me connected to your vision, connected to the work you're doing, the people that you're doing. So when you go and ask them, which I agree with 100%, make sure you're reminding them that this is about mission, not about entertainment.
Yep.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. We have an anonymous attendee asking, I've worked with institutional funders who especially recently are eager to support and be recognized for supporting diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. Many of these foundations and corporations contribute actively or passively to systems of inequity and oppression through their business practices, and their investment in this work is only skin deep, pun intended. How can organizations that work authentically in equity and justice better educate and influence these donors without jeopardizing our programs? So I think this is a question that people, many organizations across the country are asking themselves in different ways and different aspects. My quick answer to you is Laurel and I just did a webinar on anti-racist fundraising, where we provide a framework for thinking through some of these issues that you can find on our website and also on the Bloomerang website. But I think, to your earlier point, Karen, we're saying we're not entertainers. I think most of us are also not diversity and equity and inclusion experts. And so the best way, I think, to talk about these really important issues is to really talk about it in the context of your own organization and your own vision, why you find that these issues are particularly important, your vision, why you are having your approach, why it's important to you to do the work this way, and try to influence foundations and institutional donors through your own actions and your own thinking, rather than, because I think it's hard to lecture people on this issue, and different people can genuinely have different takes on what constitutes a robust diversity, equity, and inclusion effort. And we all have varying opinions about this. And so I think it's hard to walk into any donor and tell them, like, this is what this should be, and this is what you should be doing. But I think what you can do is lead by example and really talk about your own vision and why you've chosen to center diversity, equity, inclusion in your own work, and start the conversation from there. So it's a challenging topic. So I don't know if Karen or Laurel, as we wrap this up, if you have any thoughts on that as well.
I just want to send them to two resources. Two resources, and then perhaps a third will work too. I really think that the webinar that Laurel and Bob did is worth your time. Go to the website, theosborngroup.com, click on it, give yourself, I think it's like a 40-minute, or I don't remember, but whatever the amount of time it tells you, and just really sit and listen. There's also a wonderful post. I posted it on Twitter, and I posted it on LinkedIn, on my LinkedIn page, and on my Twitter page. and it is called Motivational Interviewing, and it's about helping change people's minds through motivational questioning, through it's a really wonderful article, and it will help you in life. So I just offer both those things and then agree with what Bob said.
Great. Well, thanks everyone. We've reached the end of our time, and I'm sure all of us have the next Zoom call or the next webinar to get to. So thanks so much for joining us today. We hope this was helpful. We plan to have this every first Friday of the month. If we didn't get to your question, please feel free to email us. If you have any suggestions on how we can do this better, let us know. This is our first time, so we're happy to get the feedback as well. And we hope to see you a month from now.
Thanks.
Bye, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Bye-bye.